For better, for worse. For richer, for poorer. Sickness and in health.
What if I told you one of the most effective horror comedies of recent years is actually a brilliant takedown of wealth inequality disguised as a bloody game of hide and seek? Today, we'll be diving deep into Ready or Not, a film that takes the phrase "eat the rich" quite literally, and somehow manages to be both hilarious and terrifying, while delivering some pretty sharp social commentary. I'm the Film Critique, and this is why Ready or Not is way smarter than it gets credit for. Now, quick heads up, we'll be discussing major plot points, so if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it first. Now, on the surface, Ready or Not seems pretty straightforward. Grace, played by Samara Weaving, marries into the wealthy Ledomos family, only to discover that their wedding night tradition involves playing a deadly game. She draws the wrong card, quite literally, and has to survive until dawn while the entire family hunts her down with crossbows, axes, and whatever else they can get their hands on. It's all got elements of great horror comedy, a final girl, an increasingly absurd violence, and some genuinely funny comedy moments. But here's the thing. Beneath all that blood and chaos, the director, Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett have crafted something much more interesting. This isn't just about a woman fighting for her life. It's about class warfare, generational wealth, and what people will do to maintain their privilege. And they manage to explore these themes while keeping you entertained with some of the most creative kills you'll see in modern horror. Let's talk about the Ledomos family for a second. They're not just rich, they're generationally wealthy. The kind of family where money has been flowing for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to actually work for anything. Their fortune comes from board games and playing cards, which is both absurd and perfect. Think about it. They built an empire on games and on entertainment, on things that aren't essential. And now they're literally playing a game of someone's life. Their symbolism isn't exactly subtle. It doesn't need to be. What's brilliant is how each family member represents a different aspect of how wealth corrupts. You've got Tony, who's so disconnected from reality that he can barely function. Then there's Becky, who's trying to maintain appearances even as everything falls apart. And then there's the older generation, who are completely ruthless because they've had decades to justify their actions. But here's what really got me. The film shows how his wealth doesn't just corrupt the family, it traps them. They can't stop playing these games because their fortune literally depends on it. There's a supernatural element when they'll lose everything if they don't follow through. It's a metaphor how the ultra-wealthy becomes imprisoned of their own privilege. Grace, meanwhile, represents the outsider perspective. She comes from a working class background. She literally tells us she grew up in foster care, and she sees through all their bullshit immediately. When she says rich people, it's not just a throwaway line, it's the thesis of the entire film. Can we just take a moment to appreciate Samara Weaving here, because her performance is absolutely crucial in why this film works. Grace isn't your typical final girl. She's not pure or innocent, she's practical and resourceful, but also genuinely angry. I mean, who wouldn't be? Weaving plays her with this perfect mix of terror and rage that makes her incredibly relatable. When she's hiding in that dumbwaiter covered in blood, muttering about rich people, you're completely on her side, you're drawn to her. What I like is how Grace's character arc mirrors the audience's journey. She starts trying to fit into it, to be polite, to play by their rules. But as the night goes on, she realizes that their rules are designed to destroy her. So she stops playing nice and starts fighting back. It's incredibly satisfying to watch. And Weaving commits completely to the physical comedy. She's running around in a wedding dress that's increasingly destroyed, and she sells every moment of pain, exhaustion, and determination. It's a star-making performance that somehow balances horror, comedy, and a social commentary. Now, one of the most trickiest things about horror comedy is finding the right balance. Too much comedy and you lose attention. Too much horror and the laugh feels inappropriate. Ready or Not absolutely nails this balance. And a lot of it comes down to the tone and the timing. The film is genuinely scary when it needs to be. That scene when Grace is hiding in the box while the family searches for her, pure tension, But then you get moments like Daniel accidentally shooting his nephew in the face, and suddenly you're laughing at the sheer absurdity of it all, the craziness. What works is that the comedy often comes from the family's incompetence, rather than undercutting Grace's genuine terror. These people are so removed from reality that they can't even conduct a proper manhunt. They're dangerous because they have the resources and determination, the brainwashing, but they're also bumbling idiots who keep accidentally killing each other. The film also uses dark comedy to make its point about wealth and privilege. The funniest moments often come from watching these people fail at something they should have been simple, because they've never actually had to work for anything in their entire lives. Everything has been given to them on a silver platter. Okay, let's talk about that ending, because it's either going to work for you or it won't, and it completely changes how you read the film. So when it turns out to be a supernatural element is real, the family really will be destroyed if they don't complete the ritual, and when they fail, they literally explode into gore while Grace watches from the laned chair, smoking a cigarette and flipping them off. Now, some people see this as the film going too far in fantasy and intensity, but I think it's actually the perfect way to end this particular story, because here's the thing. In reality, wealthy families like this don't face consequences. They don't get to comeuppance, and they use their money and influence to avoid justice. But Ready or Not is a fantasy, and fantasies can deliver the justice that reality often denies us. Watching these horrible people literally explode while Grace survives is cathartic because it's the ending we really want, but rarely get to see in real life. The fact that Grace walks away, gets in a car and drives off while smoking a cigarette, that's not just badass, it's a statement. She's not traumatized into submission. She's not broken. She survived, and she's taking their car as compensation for what they put her through. What if I told you one of the most effective horror comedies of recent years is actually a brilliant takedown of wealth inequality disguised as a bloody game of hide and seek? Ready or Not came out in 2019, right when conversations about wealth inequality were really heating up. And while it's easy to dismiss it as another funny horror movie, I think it's actually something important to say about how we view the ultra-wealthy. The film doesn't just ask us to sympathize with rich people or understand their perspective. It presents them as a genuinely monstrous and asked to root from destruction. In a media landscape, we're often asked to humanize billionaires and understand their struggles. That's pretty radical, but it does all this while being genuinely entertaining. You don't need to think about the class commentary to enjoy watching Grace fight for her life, to be entertained by it. The social themes enhance the experience rather than overwhelming it. And in a genre that's often criticized for its treatment of women, Ready or Not gives us a final girl who's not just strong, she's angry, and her anger is completely justified. Grace doesn't forgive or forget, she survives and she gets revenge, and the film celebrates that. Now, Ready or Not actually works because it understands that sometimes the best way to discuss serious issues is through filmmaking. It uses horror and comedy to explore the themes of class, privilege, and survival in ways that are fresh and urgent. Is it subtle? No. But sometimes subtlety is often overrated. Sometimes you need a film that's willing to say, F the rich, and mean it literally. What do you think of Ready or Not? Did the ending work for you, or did it go too far? Let me know in the comments. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more film essays. Today, we'll be diving deep into Ready or Not, a film that takes the phrase "eat the rich" quite literally, and somehow manages to be both hilarious and terrifying, while delivering some pretty sharp social commentary. I'm the FilmCritique, and this is why Ready or Not is way smarter than it gets credit for. Now, quick heads up, we'll be discussing major plot points, so if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it first. Now, on the surface, Ready or Not seems pretty straightforward. Grace, played by Samara Weaving, marries into the wealthy Ledomas family, only to discover that their wedding night tradition involves playing a deadly game. She draws the wrong card, quite literally, and has to survive until dawn while the entire family hunts her down with crossbows, axes, and whatever else they can get their hands on. It's all got elements of great horror comedy, a final girl, and increasingly absurd violence, and some genuinely funny comedy moments. But here's the thing, Beneath all that blood and chaos, the director Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett have crafted something much more interesting. This isn't just about a woman fighting for her life, it's about class warfare, generational wealth, and what people will do to maintain their privilege.